green is in verde.
Beanie gang.
You know what I'm saying? Green is in verde. We own one. All right. Well, we always like to give them 3s. We do give them 2s. And then we end with a 1, which means we are here. We ready to go. Say something, family. Hello, hello, hello. It's been a second. We're happy to be back with another week. Got Mitch here as always, rocking and rolling, ready to keep you guys up to date with everything that has happened in sports. But before we do that, no agenda talk can go on without a check-in. So like we always do, we encourage you, if you're sitting with somebody, go ahead, take the time, check in, ask them how they're doing, and hopefully they do the same for you. You never know when it might make that difference. Mitch, what's going on? How you doing? Let the folks know.
Doing good. Been having a busy week. Pretty tired right now, but glad to be over here talking sports. Got some exciting stuff with Raiders talk. Got the MLB coming back around. Got some good talk for that. So I'm excited to be here. What about you?
Man, I'm juiced, man. You know, I'm definitely tired. So I hear you and I feel you. You know, back now in school. So internship, basically everything's just back rip roaring fully. Yeah. We're up to speed. A part of it feels good, and a part of me really notices the body fatigue, especially this week, where I have just been out of it. You know, after work, just weird. And I know it will change, but I'm looking forward to when it does so I can start utilizing my time a little better. I feel like right now I'm just in kind of like get the work done mode and then rest.
Get to that summer vacation.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that, give me a week or two, I'll be fully back in the flow of this new schedule, and just be able to, I think, maximize my time better. I do have the universe testing me a lot lately, I do feel, but usually that means that something big is on the other side. That's normally how I've seen it. So it's just about keeping your cool. So I feel like, there's a lot of lessons for me to still always look at and potentially improve on, while also, there's a certain point where you got to stand your ground.
Right.
But I'll say no more, other than, shout out to you, universe. I see what's going on, and we're going to keep pushing. So on to our agenda today. We got the NFL to start with. We always do.
NFL, big postseasons.
There's a lot more for you to start with before we even get to the playoff update and the Super Bowl preview and the Pro Bowl rosters.
Right.
You've had some big news.
Yeah. Some surprising news.
Some in-house hirings. I kind of saw it coming a little bit, but I think I've talked about it more off screen than not. But I've heard his name a lot. But I want you to break the news, and I want you to talk about what is the feelings for you about this hiring.
All right, man. Well, like you're saying, we got the Raiders making one of their better signings over the last few years. Everybody else has kind of been a question mark or just a maybe or a hopeful kind of guy where you never really knew what they were actually going to bring to the table. Well, now Pete Carroll has been signed. Somebody who's won at the college level and at the NFL level. Somebody who's been a player coach. Somebody who just knows how to run a program, get people to jump on board, buy in, and just become a solid player out there. And that is what I believe he's going to do. I think this is one of the better moves that Mark Davis could have made at the coaching position. Nothing against an Antonio Pierce, but hey, you're a young guy, you're a new coach, first timer. It was going to be tough to implement things for you. We were very optimistic, but at the end of the day, we're finally getting an established guy. John Gruden wasn't as established anymore. He had been out of the game for a while.
Long time.
Josh McDaniels, another guy from the Belichick tree who just hasn't panned out as a head coach. So, and he didn't really mesh with like the Raider way. So it didn't really seem like it was ever going to work. But this one seems like you got a well-established guy who can have a lot of respect from the players he currently has and somebody who could potentially bring other players to the team. They're already saying that they're going to probably even try and get Russell Wilson to come to the Raiders. But we'll see what kind of moves he's trying to make. Hopefully he's not just riding out the end of his career.
Correct.
Pete Carroll by just, let me just kind of coast and maybe have some 500 teams. Like, hopefully he's able to revamp everybody and get people to be like, all right, now we're back on track. Now we're not lost anymore.
I think it's a perfect time, right?
Yeah.
Like before, give them enough time to prepare for this draft. You guys have a notable enough draft pick to where you need homework to be done.
Yeah.
The more I'm looking at it, the more I think one of those quarterbacks could fall. The more that I continue to look at how things are shaking out, certain prospects are rising up the board. Certain skill positions are being valued a little higher than others right now, which is usually not the case with quarterbacks.
Right.
But the way it's looking is it seems like maybe one of these other teams is probably going to take one of Shedeur or Cam Ward. And to me, it looks like it's probably Cam Ward. And if that's the case, then it does look like there may be an opportunity for Shedeur at 6. And then I think that that's what happens. Then it's perfect timing for Pete Carroll or somebody like that who actually known for winning, has a pedigree that players care about, right? And also could maybe bring in a Russell Wilson without really much effort. That's a hell of a stopgap mentor, however you want to approach that. But like going from Aiden O'Connell and
Gardner Minshew
to potentially Russell Wilson and a Shedeur, I mean, we're talking night and day.
Right.
And then to be able to give an opportunity to somebody who potentially could also be night and day, comparatively speaking, to, no disrespect, but Antonio Pierce.
Right, yeah.
I think it's a match that could really work out.
Day.
Yeah. Don't cancel us. No, but, I think that all jokes aside, really, I do think it's perfect time. And I do think it's a great match. And I think that nobody like that would come back if he's not trying to win. Like, he's too old. You know what I mean? So he's not going to come back for a little honeymoon.
Right.
I think he's really trying to add to his accolades and cement himself as one of the better coaches of our generation, at least. So
it seems like Tom Brady is really making an impact.
Yes.
It's not just Mark Davis making a bunch of decisions. It's finally other people in that front office being able to put their handprints on the lineup that we're going to have and the coaching staff.
Right. And so hopefully with those names, like you said, and the clout behind it, Mark Davis has been known, he came out publicly saying, I've been waiting for, real football people to be in this building, even though, to be honest, there's been a ton of people he could have been hiring.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been real football people. But nonetheless, I do think he's also speaking to the character and some of these people at bigger than life stature finally being big enough to shut him up. Where it's like, hey, okay, you haven't done a lot of winning.
Right.
You haven't played a lot of football. Why don't you just go ahead?
Let us handle this.
Why don't you go ahead
and give us the money? We'll handle
pass the sticks over, So, 2 thumbs up on that, and especially after the Ben Johnson thing. I don't even think there was another name that kind of fits the bill in the way that this one gets it done. So
I think
that's
like
surprising.
What you said with the Notre Dame coach, that kind of cachet.
Yes.
I think is similar to that of a Pete Carroll, just without as much winning,
100%,
as much experience.
100%. The next thing before we move on from the Raiders is you guys are also deciding to keep the old defensive coordinator, some guy Patrick Graham, I believe his name is. I'm not sure I know anything about Patrick Graham. What do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't really believe that last year was solely on the defense and the lack of ability to stop the other team. I think it was the fact that the offense would go 3 and out so much and have too many 3-minute, 1-minute drives that just left the Raiders defense on the field the whole time. I'm pretty, I could look it up right now, but just like the discrepancy between how much time we had on the ball on offense compared to how much our defense was on the field, you could just see by the third quarter, the guys were just like kind of over it, have been beat up so much throughout the game that it kind of took them out of being aggressive and being formidable. So I think if we can get a running back, get a new quarterback in there with a better scheme of how we're going to do things, like be able to switch it up and take time off the clock with a run game, which we definitely didn't have this past season.
Right.
I don't think we maybe had one guy with like 400 yards.
Right.
So it was pretty pathetic. So teams didn't really need to worry about our rush game, which led us to passing. And you could go 3 and out in 2 minutes, 1 minute.
For sure.
Just passing the ball. So
for sure.
I think the defensive coordinator probably wasn't the problem at the end of the day. Probably has the guys on defense trust right now. So keep him around with the addition of Pete Carroll. Think they can mesh well.
No. Well, there it is. On to the next. We got a little playoff update. As we were talking about last time, the playoffs were happening. We had matchup predictions.
Wrong.
Things sure didn't pan out the way we thought, but for a minute there, it did look realistic.
You know, when you go with your heart over your head.
Absolutely.
That's what happens sometimes.
Absolutely. And the pain is still real, to be honest, after, realizing that your heart's just not enough.
Yeah.
It's like, really? All right, fine. So the results of that are obviously we have a Super Bowl of the Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Two of my least favorite teams in existence.
Going to be interested to see what the viewership of this Super Bowl is going to be, because people are pretty over these teams 100%. As of right now.
100%.
So hopefully the Taylor can bring the Swifties to the television screen, because, man, I don't know. This one might not be too interesting. Like, it might be a cool game, but in terms of likability of these players on these two teams,
yeah. And honestly, I think if Saquon wasn't in the game, people would actually just be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Like, I think Saquon is enough of a story and is a likable enough guy.
Yeah.
To where people are kind of, I know I am, kind of putting a little bit of stuff to the side for his individual success. I'd like to see it. Now, I will never go out farther than that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's it. I want him to be successful. I'm excited for him. I hope that he makes the most of this opportunity to be in the Super Bowl after losing so many games.
Yeah.
But other than that, I care none. I wouldn't mind a tie. A tie would be great. That obviously can't happen. But the results of these two games, we had Chiefs 32, Bills 29. What did you think about that game?
Heartbreaker for the boy Josh Allen.
Man, tired of it.
He has Haley Steinfeld to go home to.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that support, I don't know, you might be on S-Watch right now.
Right.
Looking like the old school Bills who couldn't figure it out to get a championship.
Man.
I mean, are you guys cursed? Is it like official after all this time? Like the Bills Nation, Bills Mafia?
Right. Or are the Chiefs just blessed beyond anything else?
Right. The Chiefs definitely do get a lot of calls. It seems like a lot of things do end up going their ways at the exact time that they need to.
Giving Patriots vibes.
Do give them, they do get the credit for actually, completing the mission after they're given a little bit of help. Still requires them to go down and score, but comparatively to the other side, when you're watching the other teams, it's like they sure do give that team a lot of calls and a lot of leeway compared to other ones. Yeah. And when you got somebody like Patrick Mahomes, I mean,
can't give him any extra shots, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It seems much different than even the way Tom Brady would do it back in the day. Just it doesn't look very impressive all that much anymore.
That's what's
but
weird.
It's just like, again, the defense, dude. Like, at the end of the day, they come up strong when they need to. They come up clutch over and over again for him. Anytime and every time they need to stop during the game, they get it. And it's like, well, I got Travis Kelce that I can somehow get the ball after scrambling for 8 seconds, and then we get a 30-yard play, and all we need is 20 more yards to get a field goal and win. It just, if I didn't get it, there was a holding call, or like, there was a defensive hold. There's just always something where it just
keeping them alive,
keeping the ball rolling. So, I mean, I enjoy seeing 55 put up by the Eagles against the Commanders, which is obviously the other game. But let's just run it up. Let's see some offense. Like, I don't want to go into this game and come out of it 20-17 Super Bowl. Like, that just seems awful to watch. So hopefully the Chiefs defense doesn't just stifle Saquon and they can make it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one place where they are in trouble, it is with Saquon, because I think that their pass defense is impeccable. I think it might be the best in the league. And then I look at that rush defense, and it's good. You know what I mean? And especially in the goal line and in red zone, it's really good. But I think in open field, I don't know. They're not the fastest unit up front. And when you deal with a guy like Saquon, like, I just can't even think of a time, like, have they played a guy like this yet? Like, I don't know. And most of the times they've played top backs, they're getting thrashed. They still win most of the time, but they are getting thrashed. So I do think that at least in that way, stylistically, Philly brought the right guys to the table, right? But
and Jalen, what
well,
was
of
that,
course,
2 or
yeah.
3 touchdowns,
Yeah.
rushing touchdowns last game?
Cooking. And he's injured, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if that hip is fully back. You know, I think you'll see more rushing from Jalen. I think Jalen he threw a lot last game.
Yeah.
You know, I was shocked. He threw, I think, 30 plus times for sure. I'm not sure the exact number, but that's rare for Jalen.
AJ was like, I need it.
Yeah.
I need the targets over here.
Right. Because Jalen can have games where I'm throwing 20 times.
Yeah.
And we feel comfortable about it.
So,
you know.
5 tush pushes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was what was shocking was, you know, I really think the difference in the game for the Chiefs and the Bills was all of the short yardage plays where the Chiefs just simply won the battle of the lines in those moments. Not every play, but in the moments where it was like the Bills need a yard.
Yeah.
The Bills need a yard and a half. It was just like never.
Nope. Not even
never.
Close.
You're not going to get it. Nope. And you have Josh Allen. Doesn't matter. We know you like to go left. We're left.
Yeah.
Like it just every moment
Spagnola.
Bro, ready for it. And those guys just seem to know the moments they're going to be good at and not try to play outside of that. Like they know they're really good in short yards. They know they're really good in red zone. And so there are times where it almost seems like they let you get there.
Yeah.
And they lull you into thinking, oh, perfect, here we are. And they're like, nah, this is go time. It's us. I thought the Eagles were pretty impressive, dismantling the Commanders 55-23. Again, too many turnovers.
Yeah.
The Washington just, reminded me in a weird way of the Ravens when they were playing the Bills, where it was just like, I mean, you guys can't even keep the ball in your hands. You know what I mean? Like 4 turnovers or something like that, you're never going to win a playoff game, let alone with a rookie quarterback or facing a team that's that talented as the Eagles and with such a rush game that could just run the entire clock out, which they continually did basically while scoring. But it'll be interesting to see what style the Eagles bring to play Kansas City. They clearly knew that they could beat Washington through the air, and so they didn't care. I mean, they're always going to feed Saquon, but they were down to do so. I don't think that's going to be the case with Kansas City, and so I'm just hoping, just like you, it doesn't end up being a midfield battle.
Right.
Because it could quite easily be 2 of the best units facing off against each other, just kind of
even in and out.
Exactly.
Like with the Commanders, I mean, just the clock struck 12, right?
Yes,
like,
that's it.
It was a flip of a coin. It's either going to be the Commanders-Lions game where we're 45-31.
Yep.
Or we just get overpowered from the very jump because this team on paper is clearly better than us.
Yep.
But the way we've been playing as the Commanders is we've been overachieving, and it finally came back to, all right, let's regress back to the norm of we're probably like a 10-7 team on the verge. We just overachieved this year, in my opinion.
No, definitely. There's just not enough. I mean, there's not talent on that roster is not the same to anybody who's left. Yeah. I mean, even the Rams, in my opinion, have more names on that roster where you'd be like, yeah, I'll take that to the playoffs. And I think you made a good point. I think they ran out of bullets in the chamber. And to give them credit, they did go out shooting.
Right. It was just like one of those things where you're talking about the turnovers. It's like they couldn't have any of that. They need to continue to play perfectly the whole time. And if they were going to start fumbling and making all these turnovers, that's when it was just like other teams going to run away with it because they're probably going to consistently score
100%.
On this defense that, again, has overachieved but has given up a lot of points. And to your point, doesn't have a lot of key names on it.
Right. So who do you have?
All right.
Super Bowl.
I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say sorry to the Chiefs fans. You guys are going to be going down this year. I think just the way Saquon's been running the ball, the way that offense has been moving, it's going to be very hard to stop. Like you mentioned, the run game is something they haven't been as good against. And it really doesn't seem like there's a flaw on either side when rushing the ball with either Jalen or Saquon or throwing it to Goddard or throwing it to AJ or Devontae Smith. Seems like there's always a way to switch it up if they need to, and it's usually been success this season. And I just think the fairy tale story for Saquon continues, and it's hard to get a three-peat. It hasn't really happened.
Super hard.
I don't know. Kelsey on his last leg. It would be an interesting story to see them three-peat. I don't see them doing much past this season.
Nah.
So it kind of probably culminate everything if they were able to three-peat. But I see the Eagles coming out on top on this one. And, again, one that might be a little more heart over head, but I think there's enough facts and enough that the Philadelphia Eagles have shown to where I feel confident in picking them as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not gonna say I can't say the Chiefs. I mean, I just can't do it. Even though the Eagles, I don't even feel comfortable saying the Eagles.
Right.
Either. I'm gonna just say like Saquon. I think will be the MVP and will win the Super Bowl, which means his team will win. But it'll be Saquon, the real winner. Okay. I don't really want to watch. I'm just gonna hang out with my friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna be honest. We'll do something on the Super Bowl. I think we're gonna do something special. I'm just gonna hang with the friends, okay? And there'll be a game going on in the background, and there'll be a winner at the end. Next, my preview of that will be: I think that Mahomes, for the first time ever, we see a potential mistake in one of these big games that leads to what ends up happening. Also, I do think that if the Chiefs win, I do think Travis Kelce just retires.
He got to, bro.
Flat out. I think he straight up just goes, I'm good, Gucci, thank you.
Swifty.
Ha, ha, ha. And he just changes his last name to Swift, and he's done. He's done with the game of football. Just Travis Swift. All right. Pro Bowl rosters real fast. We're going to go over them. We've given you a little bit of previews of the All-Stars before, but we haven't talked about the Pro Bowl, and some of that stuff is going on right now. They have the Skills Challenge going on right now.
We gave them a little bit of a preview.
Did we? Okay, good.
Yeah, we gave them a little bit of preview where we announced some guys.
Good. Okay. Glad we did that, because otherwise I was like, wow. I feel like we did.
But now we got all the replacements in there. Correct. Now that the guys are going to Super Bowl,
Correct.
Or guys are just choosing that they don't feel like playing.
Correct. So we have quarterback Josh Allen being replaced by Russell Wilson. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. Joe Burrow staying. Lamar being replaced by Drake May. So at this point, we're just saying, would you like to come?
Yeah, just to go on that, because I was thinking about that before we even started today. What does it mean? Like, now is it only just something that goes on your resume, so now you can ask for $5 million more?
1,000%.
Now it doesn't seem like there's much of a relevance of being a Pro Bowler besides that, because what you guys put on as a product out there, it leaves us uninterested. Like, nobody watches that. The people who go are like the most diehard people who just like bring their kids. I'm sure it's a good time, but man, the lackluster energy for any of those events that go on, it's rough. And I know it's hard for the NFL and some of these other leagues to figure out a way to bring some excitement during the celebration of, like, quote unquote, your best players of that year. It sucks to see it be so like uninteresting, and so there's a lack of energy and excitement about it. And it's like, why do these guys even show up at this point? Like, I don't know. I just, like you're saying, with Russell Wilson, Drake May coming in, it's like,
I don't even want to know their stats.
What is the Pro Bowl anymore than that?
I don't even want to know their stats.
Like, there are, I don't know. Yeah, I just had to mention that because it confuses me nowadays of just the relevance of even being called out for that. Besides, on my next contract, I'm a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that. I will say, so I just did some real fast research because I that was too appalling to even just say Drake May. So I think it's because their one Pro Bowler was Brendan Schooler, who was a special teamer, which makes sense because they should have nobody else. Right. And he got knocked out of the game. So I think they must have, because every team gets one. Gets one. So sorry, Drake May. That is absolutely by default.
Right.
Pro Bowl. Congratulations for it. But we here at the Say Something show have identified why you've gotten your invitation to the Pro Bowl.
Because, like, for both of these guys, I realize they just played in their playoff games, but both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So people are just like, I know it's not an obligation, but like, this is an award. Like, this is an acknowledgement of how good you are. And you guys are just like, yeah, I'm finna be in Cabo. Like, it's like, I'm cool, bro. Like, I don't even want to go. So it's like who is the Pro Bowler? Does Drake May get to say it now on his
Right,
contract?
right.
Or is it Lamar Jackson with like Drake May just replacing him for the time being, but he's not a Pro Bowler? Like,
Right.
that's confusing. And if it means nothing to somebody who's good to be in the Pro Bowl, why what are we doing?
Right. I think it'll be a replacement. So it'll be like he's a Pro Bowler, but it might end up, if you looked into it, saying
Got an
replacement.
asterisk
Yeah.
right next to it.
So let's keep going down the list real fast. We got
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, who was replaced by James Cook. I do think that a lot of players who do get to that last game, having seen it with the Niners and stuff like that, with not only getting to the Super Bowl, but also the game prior to that, I do think sometimes those guys just take it off because they've just played, so they're too fatigued. So I will say that. But I am seeing some names on here where it's just like, well, it's not that, so it must be something else. We got Joe Mixon. Shout out to you, Bay Area boy, Antioch. Right. Well done. I mean, bounce back season. Cincinnati threw you to the gutter, and you bounced back. Jonathan Taylor, another bounce back season. The guy who, I mean, we've always looked at as never lacked talent, but
injuries, plagued by injuries.
Exactly. Fullback Patrick Ricard, I think, might be the only option.
Yeah,
I think maybe there's not even I don't even think there's another person to get a vote.
On the other side is just him and you.
Yeah, exactly. We have receivers: Jamar Chase, Jerry Jeudy, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, replaced by Brian Thomas Jr. That also, I believe. Well, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of deserving.
Yeah, he can deserve
compared to this list, where it's like, I mean, but Jamar Chase to me is the only bona fide, like, shout out to you, real Pro Bowl. Nico Collins is also a beast.
Nico Collins, I think.
But he was injured a lot. It's like, come on, like, missed like 6 to 7 games or something.
True.
Jerry Jeudy did show out this year, and it just, he was on the Browns, so nobody saw it.
I watched.
Tight ends, Brock Bowers, super deserving. I think he has a shot to make the All-Pro.
I mean, this other name though is just like, come on, bro. What?
Travis Kelce's crazy, yeah.
I mean, the person who's replacing him should Smith automatically have just been the guy instead of Travis. Like, that's just a gimme. They just decide, Travis, here you go.
Right, voted in for sure.
No shot. He should have been on the Pro Bowl team. No shot.
Offensive I feel like even like a Mark Andrews, I think played better.
Well, I mean, we can't do.
He had the nasty drop, obviously, but like throughout the season, it was right. Guys at least catching touchdowns.
Even Jonnu Smith, I've damn near averaged like 18 fantasy points a game.
Right. We got Deion Dawkins, Buffalo Bills OT, beast. He's been a beast for a long time. Laramie Tunsil, Houston Texans, replaced by Ronnie Staley of the Baltimore Ravens. 2 good tackles right there. Rashawn Slater, big boy from the Los Angeles Chargers, rounding out the offensive tackles. At the guards, we have Quentin Nelson, who is a
stud.
Absolute, should be a household name, other than the fact that he's on the offensive line. I mean, this guy, year in and year out, is on any list that exists for the NFL. Joe Thuney is a beast as well, replaced by Joel Bitonio, who also is actually a beast for Cleveland. And then you have Trey Smith. Whoop-de-doo, another Kansas City Chief on the line, replaced by Isaac Siumalo, for the Steelers. Center, we have Creed Humphrey, what do you know, the Kansas City Chiefs, replaced by Connor McGovern. And we have Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens. Both actually are beasts. Defensive end, we have Myles Garrett, all-time, always savage, probably could hoop too. Trey Hendrickson, just a dude that nobody believed in. Cincinnati signed from New Orleans. And it's just been everything and more that they could have ever imagined. And then the big dog, Max Crosby, who I believe has no business on this list this year. By default. You know what I mean? But
household name.
But he's a beast. So
Danielle Hunter, beast.
That's really is firm beast right there. And then we got interior lineman. We have Cam Hayward, the ageless wonder. I don't even know how old he is, but the guy
Steeler, you play defense for 20 years.
Yeah.
You retire.
And you're just always good.
Then you're just a part of the steel curtain.
Yeah. Until the last game, you're good. Like, you don't even ever have a fall off. Chris Jones, Kansas City Chiefs, probably the best player defensively in the league, I think, at this point. Replaced by Quentin Williams, New York Jets, who's also a beast. Nandi Matabuke
Ooh.
from the Baltimore Ravens, replaced by Jeffrey Simmons. Tennessee Titans, both are beasts.
Beast.
I actually know more of Jeffrey Simmons than I know of Matabuke, but there
if
it
you're
is.
on the Ravens as
You're
a
cooking.
linebacker,
You're cooking.
You're a beast. Or a lineman, you're a beast.
Outside linebacker Nick Bonito for the Denver Broncos. I've heard of this guy a fair amount. He's just a tackling machine, but he's not one of these bigger names, so it's nice
Every
to see
team
him
needs
get
a
it.
Pro Bowler. So
100%, right? TJ Watt, absolute beast, replaced by Kyle Van Noy, who's on the Baltimore Ravens, who's
Ageless wonder.
been around doing his thing. Khalil Mack, also, I'm not sure why he's here,
he was
but
solid.
he was cool.
This year.
Replaced by Joey Bosa, so teammates. Inside and middle linebacker, we have Roquan Smith and Zaire Franklin, both tackling machines. One from Baltimore, that's Roquan. The other from Indianapolis, that's Zaire.
Roquan replaced by former Raven Patrick Queen, who's now on the Steelers.
The irony. The irony. Cornerback, we have Derek Stingley from Houston Texans, who's an absolute savage. Patrick Surtain as well is just a beast. These dudes are lockdowns. Two guys that I'd love to see if they ever could get their way over to the Niners. Mm-hmm. Marlon Humphrey as well is more of a veteran guy, but just, man, he's a thorn in receiver sides. Mm-hmm. Then you got Denzel Ward, who technically is very sound out there on the edge and hold it down for the Browns, even though their defense is on the field a lot.
I'd love to have any of these guys on my team.
Right? Free safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, this guy
always going to be him.
Dude, this guy is just when you say, like, he's a football player. Right. That's like Minkah Fitzpatrick.
And he's on the Steelers, which everybody on their team, they're a football player.
100%. And can be nothing else. Strong safety, we have Kyle Hamilton, who I think, if you don't know, this dude from getting drafted 14th out of Notre Dame has immediately ascended to being one of the top safeties in the league.
That's why I'm kind of excited for, Xavier? I think I forget his last name, Watts maybe, the safety for Notre Dame right now, who's going into the draft, who should be like a top 15, top 20 guy. I think he's going to be very similar in like a Kyle Hamilton type of way.
That's dope. Shout out to you and good luck in the draft. You know, we got Derwin James, who, if you don't know as well, I mean, Kyle Hamilton is, when you talk about here and here, he's got it like that. Derwin James is very smart as well, but when you talk about a body to play football, that might be one of the scariest guys.
I know it's different. I know it's a different position, but it gives me like the Navarro Bowman of safeties. Like the dude just,
I will kill you.
You want interception? You want a fumble? Right. Forced fumble? Right. You want just a hard hit?
Right.
I do it all.
And do you want it with no fear? Do you want it with no fear? None? No hesitation? Here I am. Yeah, here I am. I mean, people fear that man. Yeah. Raiders talk about all those division guys talk about him all the time. Like, Derwin James is a problem, dude. Because, like he said, he's one of those guys that it's almost positionless ball,
right?
Which is rare. There. Which is just rare in football. Like the guy, exactly. Just please put Derwin somewhere. Special teamer, long snapper Ross Matisic from Jacksonville Jaguars. Punter Logan Cook from the Jaguars.
Shout out.
These guys were doing a lot of that this year, as you can tell. Place kickers, Chris Boswell, who was absolutely shredding stuff for Pittsburgh in kind of a down year for kickers.
Yeah.
Return specialist Marvin Mims, who also was coming on as a receiver late in the year, making a little nice connection with Bo Nix. Special teamer is Brandon Schuler for the New England Patriots, who's replaced by Miles Killebrew of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And
what does that even mean?
Yeah, Lord knows.
The special teamer.
Right. That's like, remember that Dave Owen,
like
New England.
Gunner
was the New England guy who was always getting it every year? Slater.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like a 10-time Pro Bowler, just always at that position. So anyway, I thought you could go over our NFC and cover the changes for us.
All right, let's do this. We're going to get started on the NFC side. We got a little bit of newer names that we're not used to seeing out there. Started with Jared Goff, who actually just showed out during the skills challenges and helped the NFC get a win.
Yep.
Sam Darnold from the Minnesota Vikings, a potential free agent for some guys coming out. And then Jaden Daniels. You just seen his remarkable rookie season. Sadly came to an end against the Eagles, but he was on top of his game the whole year.
Should have been a Raider.
Yeah, should have been a Raider. But he will be replaced by Baker Mayfield, who also had a great season.
Man, he was amazing.
I'm surprised he wasn't just on there from the get-go.
He was amazing.
These other three guys have had great seasons. May not be your household names. Jaden Daniels potentially in the future will be. But it's cool to see some guys who, may just kind of scatter a few years of getting a Pro Bowl selection.
Mm-hmm.
Cool to see them. Running backs, we got, of course, Saquon Barkley from the Philadelphia Eagles. Damn near one of the best seasons a running back could ever have in the NFL.
Crazy.
Over 2,000 yards. This guy just is a touchdown machine.
Beast.
Get him a little bit of space, and he'll take it all the way. He's getting replaced by somebody who could potentially be the same kind of player in the next couple of years, and Bijan Robinson for the Atlanta Falcons, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, another Detroit Lion, making as a young player, making his debut in the Pro Bowl, going to be a beast in the future. And then rounded out with former Raider Josh Jacobs.
Yikes.
The Packers really, he carried that team for a lot of the time.
Yeah, he did.
The wide receiver game wasn't that great. Jordan Love was up and down throughout the season, but was always constant was Josh Jacobs. So shouts out to you, former Raider. Really just handled business. And another dude who got a bunch of touchdowns this season and a bunch of touches.
Mm-hmm.
Again, fullback, just like on the other side with Rickard. This side, you got Kyle Juszczyk from the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, he's just a staple at the position. He's always going to be a stud in a position that doesn't get utilized a lot. He's somebody who's actually effective out there during games. Mm-hmm. Wide receivers, we got, just like on the other side, Jamar Chase, his old college buddy, Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettas, Mr. Gritty. He's making another Pro Bowl. I mean, what's to say here? Always going to be on this list. Mm-hmm. Always going to be all-pro guy. Mm-hmm. Top 2 receiver every single year. Absolute stud, future GOAT, Hall of Famer. Secondly, we got another Detroit Lion, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, another guy who's just as consistent as can be. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's always going to get 9 to 10 targets at least and probably catch just about everyone and get some yak. He just came off a loss as well. So Malik Neighbors, a young gun from the Giants, is going to be replacing him. CeeDee Lamb from the Dallas Cowboys had an all right season. I mean, it wasn't as good as the year before, but that name, that talent, he's going to get put on this team. Mm-hmm. He's getting replaced by somebody who probably had a better season and just has been more notable over the last, damn near decade.
Yep.
Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Him and Baker Mayfield really made a great combination this year. And then last but not least, we got Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry from the Washington Commanders. Shouts out to you. Benefited from actually having a good quarterback for once. Now it's been a while for him, so good to see him get on there. But he will be getting replaced by Jackson Smith-Njigba from the Seattle Seahawks. Another good up-and-coming player. Ohio State, another school that wants to be wide receiver U. Right. Another one of those receivers, just like a Garrett Wilson, that's really shown out. And it's cool to see him get his flowers a little bit, be able to join the Pro Bowlers. Next, we got 2 tight ends who really, really showed out this year. Probably had 2 of the best seasons besides maybe Brock Bowers at the tight end position in George Kittle of the 49ers and Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. 2 guys that actually finally got utilized more often than they have in previous years. Mm-hmm. Kittle because of the lack of Debo and Ayuk being able to be available at all times. Mm-hmm. And then Trey McBride, just Kyle Murray finally actually Kyler Murray using him a bunch when he couldn't get it to Marvin Harrison and some of these other receivers on his team. The offensive line, we'll go through that pretty quick. A bunch of studs again. Beast. I mean, these linemen for both sides are probably going to be the guys you see damn near every single season because they're just that good. Starting with Lane Johnson for the Philadelphia Eagles, Penei Sewell for the Detroit Lions, and Tristan Wirfs from Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are probably 3 top 5 offensive linemen in the league.
Period.
They hold it down for each one of their teams. They make a difference every single game they're out there. Lane Johnson will be replaced by Brian O'Neill from Minnesota Vikings. Shout out to very much protecting Sam Darnold all year, which resulted in the great season they had.
For sure.
And then Taylor Decker from the Detroit Lions replacing Penei Sewell, another Detroit Lion, because one's probably just that much better than the other one. And so Penei's like, I'm going to be in Hawaii or something chilling.
Yeah, exactly.
The guards, we got Landon Dickerson, Tyler Smith, and Chris Lindstrom, respectively. And Landon Dickerson will be replaced by Robert Hunt of the Carolina Panthers because even though they suck, the Panthers need a guy in there for the Pro Bowl.
Right.
At center, Frank Ragnow and Cam Jurgens, 2 absolute studs again. can never state it enough. These offensive linemen are just all pro, all guys that are going to be there every single year. Cam Jurgens will be replaced by Eric McCoy from the New Orleans Saints because as well they need somebody to represent them. Defensive side, we got Nick Bosa from the 49ers, Micah Parsons from the Cowboys, and Rashawn Gary from the Green Bay Packers.
Nice list.
Good list. Micah Parsons, more for his name this season. He really didn't do too much. But Nick Bosa and Rashawn Gary, two guys who were always studs, they really showed out, and that's why they're there. Interior lineman, we got Jalen Carter for the Eagles, a top 5 guy out here just shoving everybody out the way. He's going to be replaced by Leonard Williams from the Seattle Seahawks. Shouts out to him. Next, we got Dexter Lawrence, another absolute beast for the Giants. I know their team didn't do that great, but they do have some stud young guys on their team who are really showing out. And at the very least, we got Vita Vea from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, veteran, seasoned guy who's just over 300 pounds, knows how to move you out the way. You're not getting the run by him. No. He's stopping you every single time. Dude is a brick wall. Outside linebacker, Jonathan Greenard from the Minnesota Vikings, Andrew Van Ginkel from the Vikings,
both played,
and Jared Verse from the Rams. 2 Vikings players who held it down and helped them have a great season this year. And then Jared Verse absolutely just showed out this season. I mean, immediate impact player, absolute stud out of Florida State. He's going to be there for a
second-year player. That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Inside linebacker, you have your seasoned vet who's always been there in Fred Warner from the 49ers. I mean, sideline to sideline guy, cerebral guy, can lead a defense, absolute stud. And then somebody who had an amazing season this year for the Philadelphia Eagles and Zach Bond, somebody who may not be a household name, but now you know because of how great his season was. And he's going to be replaced by Bobby Wagner of the Commanders. Another guy, seasoned vet, used to be a Seattle Seahawk during the Legion of Boom era. He's a stud. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer as well. Mm-hmm. Cornerback, we got Jalen Johnson from the Bears, Byron Murphy from the Vikings, J.C. Horn from the Panthers, and Devin Witherspoon from the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of good players. Maybe a little bit lower on the list than the guys we've seen in the AFC, but still some very, very solid players. Xavier McKinney, free safety for the Green Bay Packers. Absolute beast. He made it. He's somebody who's going to be a steadfast player at the free safety and Pro Bowls to come. Strong safety, we got
every year.
Buda Baker from the Arizona Cardinals. Another guy who's very similar and just put me out on the field, and I'm going to make plays for you 100%. No matter where I am. And then Brian Branch from the Detroit Lions held down the backside of that defense very well, kept everything contained until this last playoff game. But he's absolute stud, strong safety. Rounded out with our special teams, we got Andrew DePaula from Minnesota Vikings as the long snapper, Jack Fox from the Detroit Lions as the punter, place kicker Brandon Aubrey, who had a great season for the Cowboys, Devontae Turpin from the Dallas Cowboys, who's always a speedster in the back for returning. And then last but not least, we got Cardale Hodge from the Atlanta Falcons as the special teamers. Still yet to understand what that position is, but shouts out to you for getting that one to round out the NFC Pro Bowlers. Mouthful, got a lot to say about them all, but they all deserve it and had a great season this season.
Yep. So the special teamer is the gunner. So I did look that up for us.
Go get him.
So that's good. So I guess you're doing a great job gunning on down that field, my friend.
Hey, go get him.
Last thing before we move on to the NBA would just be real fast. There's rumors that the Niners may be looking into a Tyler Warren situation if he were to fall. For you Niner faithful, just keep in mind that that may be one of the offensive names you start hearing that are beyond the trenches. The trenches are where most of the rumors are residing.
Yeah,
I understand most of our attention is there, but I'm telling you right now, if Tyler Warren ends up being available at 11, they're going to think about it. He's super versatile, the number 1 tight end this year. They're looking to potentially extend Kittle's career, not put so much on him in terms of route running and blocking. I mean, we require a lot of him in our schemes. And with how things are going with our receivers, it does seem as though we may be shifting a little bit with our intentions to be a little bigger, a little more versatile in the trenches in that way. And maybe not so finesse-oriented. Yeah. So just keep a lookout for the Penn State tight end if he's available for us. Now on to the NBA. The Dubbies got a crazy win.
Yeah.
We beat the Thunder last night. We are one of two teams in the NBA, that's the entire NBA, who have beat the Thunder twice so far. Pretty surprising considering the last time we played them, we were both 12-4, and they have continued on that path. And meanwhile, pretty much ever since we've seen them, we have hit the floor, and we haven't gotten up. But last night, it looked like we put our hand down, got a little firm wrist, and might be getting a little separation from the floor. We're on a measly 2-game winning streak. But if you do look at the recent games, if we could just win the games we should win, it's sad to see how many gimmies we're kind of giving up, where it's like some of these could actually be streaks. But instead, we're throwing out a game to Toronto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're throwing out a game here to sack for no reason. We're just
too many games to sack.
Goodness gracious.
Jeez,
goodness gracious. So that brings me to where, we can have a little discussion. But before we do that, just, I do want to announce that we are retiring Andre's number 9. That's exciting. Big ups to that man. I think he'll go to the Hall of Fame. Just instrumental in turning around the Warriors. And I truly believe in terms of us going from nobodies to really being the mecca of the NBA, I think that you look no further than Andre Iguodala in terms of swinging that pendulum at a time that we really needed it to start getting some progress happening, some momentum going. Jimmy Butler, if the price is low, our name has now been thrown into the ringer again because the Heat are at a point where Jimmy has put him in a really bad spot. They're suspending him over and over again. I mean, it seems like
Jimmy,
they don't have nothing to do. So, if the price is low enough, I mean, I'm all for it. I just wanted to give you a quick moment if you had a yay or nay. But, I mean, if the price gets low, it's almost why not?
Yeah, I think it's less about who we lose to get him and more about what he is going to bring to our team.
Right.
And not just in terms of playing, but in terms of attitude.
Woo! It's a coin flip.
It's clear that it doesn't matter where he is. He's just doing him, clearly. He is very much okay with being the selfish guy.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty apparent at this point. Like, you're definitely playoff Jimmy and a hooper, but you definitely kind of seem like an asshole. Like, you seem kind of like a jerk.
Yes.
And somebody who could be very hard to deal with and get along with.
100%.
We already have one of those guys.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard.
And so that locker room might get even more contentious because they might actually fight. Because they're both not the type to be like, yeah, okay, I'll let you get that. Nah, they're stubborn. They're both yeah, catch me after your pod.
Catch me outside.
We good. So, who knows who would win that one, but that would be my only concern with Jimmy is, are you going to bring these problems that you've been providing at these others? It's not just the Heat. Like, he had that whole stint with the Minnesota Timberwolves where he was just calling everybody out, including the front office. So it's like, Jimmy, like, you've been the de facto number 1 on your teams, but like in terms of actually like really being a number 1, you've faltered every time you've been the number 1, and every time you've been less than that, we haven't really seen.
You've been mad about it.
You've been mad about it. So this definitely, I mean, we've seen with KD how he ended up resenting it for a little bit after realizing he wasn't going to be the loved one when he came to the Warriors. But it's like, shouldn't you guys already have known that? Like, Steph Curry is Steph Curry. Like,
right. And you ain't won since.
Right. So. Yeah, you ain't won since. So it's like, it's clear, like, you may have the talent of a number 1, but you definitely need somebody with you that's the right person who's going to get you over the top for a championship. And that's why it's like it's kind of annoying that other stars haven't wanted to come play with Steph Curry because of how he plays. Like, I seen something the other day with Eric Pashaw was talking and saying like, oh yeah, it was kind of nice when Steph wasn't in there because like I'm a scorer. People try to like say I'm like Draymond and stuff like that, but I like to score. And when Steph came back, it was hard for me to play because we had to do everything around him. And it's just, but Eric, it should be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who are you to say shit like
You're
that?
a zero-time All-Star, Eric.
It's like, yeah, I get that you're definitely gonna have to defer, but if I'm gonna defer, I'm gonna give it to the best shooter ever. Like, yeah, I can shoot. I'm Jimmy Butler. I can shoot very well, but guess who shoots better than everybody else?
Right.
The guy on your team.
Right.
And if that guy's open, why wouldn't you just pass it to him?
Right.
You know. So hopefully he'd be somebody who wouldn't be like, oh yeah, now I'm 1A, like I'm also just as important. It's like, no, just play the role and be the good player that you are.
You're here to be Robin.
But yeah, exactly. You're here to be Robin. You're here to ride the coattails of Steph Curry, just like KD before you, just like anybody would be if they're playing with Steph. Steph, the only reason Steph is not the most dominant player and best player is because he's 6'3".
Yep.
That's why he never gets talked about as the best player in the league or one of the best players ever and just the best shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he gets the whole at the end of the day, he can't get pushed around compared to other guys.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you guys are bigger, can do more things, can drive, be more physical, but he is usually the best player at the end of the day.
Facts.
Even with a KD.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, hopefully he would come in with the right attitude. That would be my biggest worry.
Yeah. No, I hear that. It's a great point. Shame on you, Eric, by the way. Pascal. Or Pascal, whatever you want to go by. You know what I mean?
Tomato.
That's a shame. I know we can't go around the league and find many people that say Steph Curry's a ball hog. So you can figure that out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I know you didn't last much longer than that comment did. So no worries. All-Star Weekend is coming to the Bay Area. You know, let's just give a quick shout out to that. If you are in the Bay Area, from the Bay Area, coming to the Bay Area, you should know we have some action coming within this next month. And it's rare. You know, I think the last one was 2001 where it was here.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah. This one will be quite a bit more expensive.
Woo!
But, you
not
know.
Not going to be at this one.
No, yeah. I mean, we'll be, you know, I'll be in the city getting a little party on, but I'm not going to be attending many things that are directly tied.
I'm not paying $1,000 for it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We are going to next week give you an all-star roster update with all the full stuff because we got other things we need to talk about today. But I do want to let y'all know, obviously, that's coming up, so be prepared. We have more all-star talk coming. And it's going to be in the Bay, so we'll do some sort of special for it. I actually think we're going to bring Eric down. He wants to come down. And he
unfortunately, no Sacramento player is on the All-Star team.
Which I think he'll need to talk about. Yeah, 100%. He'll want to talk about it. But I think that, you know, he wants to do some like event specials where maybe we'll watch the dunk contest live together or something. Yeah. So exciting stuff coming in the works for that, and it'll be here. So good news on all fronts, minus the price tag.
Maybe lower the hoops back here and have a nice little 8-foot dunk contest ourselves or something.
Right, for real.
Move that 3-point line in a little bit. Have a 3-point contest. No.
Hey, let's get it. We could have like one of those across the room.
Should we just get one of the hang-up ones?
Yeah, bro.
Indoor.
We should end up doing that at some point with the show and just have like on-call celebrity shots where it's just like, bro, for, you know, pick the subject we're going to talk about. Look, if you hit it, you get to choose today's agenda. Anyway, so we'll have more of that. There's De'Aaron, speaking of the Kings, De'Aaron Fox potentially with trade rumors, which I don't want to get too much into. I just want to put that out there that those have been swirling around. And obviously when a player like De'Aaron could be on the market, teams are going to swarm like sharks.
A couple of Texas teams looking at San Antonio
for sure,
and hometown Houston for De'Aaron.
For sure. And both have the packages to get it done. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And lastly, I do want to say I think the trade deadline is going to get crazy.
I hope so. Man.
I think that this calm before the storm is really eerie. And I think usually when you see stuff like that, it ends up being that there are so many teams intertwined in talks that nothing has really happened yet, but there's like 30 deals that are just right on the cusp of getting done. Some are with 3-team trades. Some are
close.
Exactly. So I think once one breaks, I think we're just going to see a flood of moves. So be prepared as well as that trade deadline comes up for whatever team it is you're rooting for. There could be lots of trades coming to your team's way. And I know the Warriors' names will be firmly in the mix for a lot of that stuff. So Lastly, before we're going to end, as we usually do with our MLB kind of update and the full free agency picture, we are going to give you a little special, which is the high school basketball. I'm not going to give a huge amount into this,
Right.
But again, we may do a segment on this later because I totally do follow all of the high school recruiting, and I'd love to do at some point a breakdown of this year's class. Just talk a little bit about who's going where and what that might look like. But
we got some Nepo babies to tell you about.
Oh, for sure. So the young men that made this list, as my man Mitch is saying, they are all sons of players we've watched.
Yeah.
I think maybe minus Dominic. I think we didn't probably get.
He was before us.
Yeah, he said,
man was averaging like 26 a game,
going crazy, just
every year,
going crazy, and some of the most ridiculous dunks for that era, where it's just like, what?
He's somebody. I feel like if you go back and look at his stats, you'll like, what the?
How did
you was putting up this? Like people, I don't think people understand. He was definitely putting up like 26 a game for like 10 seasons.
Yes, and if it weren't for Jordan, I really believe he's one of those main players that lost a lot of what he really was to a player like Jordan, where it's just like you lost him a ton of times in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And you guys are a similar kind of player where it's just athletic. You can do it all. You're jumping out the gym, And it's just sad. You're right that for a guy, if you go look his highlights up, you could put him next to Jordan's.
Yeah,
you could put him next to Jordan's. And he's won dunk contests. I mean, he's done everything that you think about one of those top tier players from that era doing. He checked all the boxes.
24 or essentially 25 and 7 with three assists for his whole career.
Easy. And he'll give you some defense, and he's gonna dunk on your favorite player that night. You know what I mean? So if they had any extra self-esteem, they're gonna lose it playing against him for sure. So real fast, I just have this list. I have 5 names of former players we used to watch, or one that we just heard a ton about and knew all about his game. So first we have Elijah Arenas, son of Gilbert, who just committed to USC. That was today. So he's staying home. That's an LA kid. This is a 6'6" guy, so taller than Gilbert. Different kind of player. Gilbert was, a very explosive scorer, more out of the point guard, shooting guard mold. Kind of like an AI kind of ism to his game, where it was score first, but I have all the traits that a point guard had that makes me hard to be guarded. And if he wanted to lead a team, he could. He didn't want to. And his son is more of like a 2-guard tweener, as opposed to Gilbert was like a 2 and a 1's body. It's reversed for his son. He's like a 1 and a 2's body. But he's just very smooth, lets the game come to him. So I'm excited to see him play. The Boozer twins, so that's Caden and Cameron.
Beast.
Carlos Boozer's son, who we watched a lot of. He played at Duke as well. Just baller. Both of them are going to be going to Duke, following in father's footsteps. Cameron is legit. If it weren't for AJ DeBonsa, he legit would be like the gimme number 1, not only in the rankings but also just for the NBA draft. So I think that him and AJ DeBonsa will be tied forever almost, because they're gonna be battling
Studs.
it out. And then you have Kyan Anthony, who's Carmelo's son, who was one of my favorite players growing up. Also going to Syracuse.
Shouts out New York.
I thought that was a crazy choice. I think it's awesome, but I think it's it takes a New York kid to want to do that, because like your dad went there 1 year, won a ship. Nobody's done that, and nobody even got close since. It's not even been even a thing to talk about. So it's just interesting to think about. He's taking that on. He wants to go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I feel like, so name the schools that they're all going to.
So we have USC, Duke, and Syracuse so far for the 3.
So that's why I feel like maybe the Boozers are a little more on top of their game,
for sure.
Solidified as themselves, as their own guys, because they're going to a play. I mean, I get it's the alma mater of their dad, but it's also a blue blood school.
Yes.
Whereas a USC and a Syracuse is, but they're not the team that they have been in the past.
Right.
So it's like, to me, it seems like Elijah and Keon are kind of like, I'm doing me, but I'm going to my dad's alma mater and I'm going to SC, but like they're kind of just going to be guys at the school. It doesn't seem like they're going to be like star players where it seems like Cam is going to be,
Cam.
I'm going to be the next guy you see with Cooper, like the next guy up, where these guys are kind of probably more mature in their game, getting a little bit better because they are very talented, but in terms of seeing their highlights and in game a lot, I haven't seen it as much as Cam and his brother.
For sure.
So I'm interested to see how they're kind of like Bronny in a way where it's like they're just taking a different route rather than going G League. They're going to a school instead of that, but still kind of like I'm just maturing my game. I may not be as concerned about winning in college.
Definitely. I think, you're 100% right in terms of talent. Before I make any comments on what I think the total poll is, the last name I will say is Jacob Wilkins, who is the son of Dominique Wilkins, who's the guy we were mentioning. Go check his highlights out. If you don't know, you'll thank us later. And he too, weirdly, is going to Georgia, which is also the alma mater of Dominique. In terms of the rankings, Cameron is number 2. I think Caden is like 15.
Right.
I think Elijah's 12. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah. And I'm not sure if Elijah has reclassified because I want to say he's not supposed to be here. Like I want to say he's supposed to be in the grade below that.
Right.
And just reclassified up. Also, it makes me really wonder the NIL stuff, right? Because all these guys are following their dad's footsteps. And I know they thought about it. Like I know Kai, and I know this wasn't easy for them. And so it just makes me wonder, marketing wise.
Right, yeah.
What got put in these kids' pockets.
I don't want
because USC is crazy.
Got.
Oh my gosh! I think they already came out with the number. I think it was like 7.1.
God, my man's gotta be owning.
I think it was like 7.1. That's
BYU.
That's made public, which is like that's way more.
I own 5% of being Mormon.
Facts. All the Mormon churches, mine. Real talk. But so I think that there's definitely. I think Cameron is by far and away the player who's the most ready for the NBA. Like I think he could go.
Yeah.
Like I think that him and AJ, I think could really skip college if they wanted to and just forget it, get in the draft. And I think teams would still take them 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Which is just speaks to them. Kyan's still growing, like you said, growing into his body. I think Elijah, like I said, is the next closest to truly being. He's just a hard worker, and he stands alone from his dad in that way. His dad is a terrible example.
Yeah.
One of these guys where if you really watch what his dad did, it's like doesn't love him.
He was the stereotypical baller at that time.
100%.
Like, I'm smoking potes and
just rocking and ones, and I think I'm him.
Yeah, I'm throwing 50 up though.
Yeah, and then I grab this 40, this beer. You know what I'm saying?
Bring my gun
and Glockiana in the locker rooms. You know what I mean?
He was not tripping.
Just ruthless. You know what I mean?
Just ask Richard Jefferson; he'll tell you.
100%, 100%. Go look up some of those interview exchanges that they've had. It is quite priceless. Some of those stories that come up, but that's kind of what I'll leave y'all with. Go check out all those guys. Cool, notable names. Sons of former players. They got the genes. The other one is Taj Ariza, who I don't think has committed yet, but I thought he was in the same class as Elijah, so I think that's why I think Elijah has just bumped up, because at one point Elijah was 4 and Taj was 5, and so I think Elijah's now moved himself up a class, and that's why he's 12. But Taj Ariza as well is somebody to go look at. Taller than his dad, so he's 6'9". His dad was already 6'7", or his dad was tall. But the guy is very similar to Elijah Arenas, except for I think he's more athletic, probably a little less polish. Because Elijah works really hard. He's one of those like, oh, you're a pro's son.
Yeah.
But like nobody would know that your dad's Gilbert because that's like anti him. But you get it. So check those guys out. Let us know what you think. Put in the comments if there are some kids that we are missing out. Again, I'm gonna do a high school special at some point, so don't you worry. I will get a lot of those names that you probably think I'm missing on the list. But if we're missing a son of a player, I don't care if he was ranked 250. If he's in this class, put him in the comments. Because I really, at the end of the day, was making that segment to try to cover that. And so I may have missed some names. So, again, no hard feelings. Just drop it in the comments if I missed something. MLB, we got our update, our wrap-up, as we always do. Let's let Mitch carry us on home, man.
Not too much going on crazy right now for the free agency. We got a few signings. We have Max Scherzer getting signed with the Blue Jays for a year. The vet. We had the Reds get Taylor Rogers from the San Francisco Giants
trade,
to bolster.
Right?
Yeah, in a trade. We had Ha-Seong Kim going to the Tampa Bay Rays.
That was surprising.
Yeah, definitely a surprise. There, he was doing solid before that, so
Right.
surprised he got let go. Kirby Yates is on the Dodgers now.
That's insane.
As a reliever, they also got Tanner Scott, so they're
Get them out of here.
solidifying their relievers right now, and just making it very, very tough on the rest of the league. There will be more moving forward. The season's gonna start soon in about 2 months. Pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting during, like, I think Valentine's Day, right around then.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be spring training rolling around March. And then we're going to get into the season at the end of March. So check out, be ready for some shorts coming. I'm just going to be breaking down each position, top players, top prospects that are be coming up, people who you could potentially go for in your fantasy drafts. So there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of different players, a lot of different names to shout out. Just to speak of one that is on my boys' team, the Giants, Bryce Eldridge looks like an absolute stud. Like 6'7", hits bombs to each side of the field.
Love it.
Looks like a stud. He's going to be on the top of prospect boards for the whole season. Maybe 1 year away, but somebody who would definitely get in there. Maybe even earlier than the All-Star break. That's how good he's showing out right now. So a lot of big names that you've heard before. There's a lot of great talent that you haven't that we're going to bring to you. So be ready for some MLB news and a lot of MLB shorts.
Absolutely. And make sure, like you said, if you need position updates as we head to fantasy baseball season, those will also be key for that, right? Yeah. So there's other areas where those tools can come in handy. Mm-hmm. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Mitch will also be leading us through a fantasy baseball special as we get there, as he's done before. And as I've told you guys, I took 3 out of 4 of my championships last year with help from my mans, getting a little hold of the player pool and kind of where I should be trying to scoop some talent up. So, like I said, it's some value on the way. And if you're into baseball, whether it's real life or fantasy, we got you all covered right here. My man's is going to make sure you're fully up to date. So without anything more, we have finished our agenda for today. That means we're going to leave y'all and we are going to catch up the next time, which will be next week. So one love from the Say Something fam. We'll catch up with y'all next time.
Hey.